Have you ever wondered what's hidden beneath our feet? Most people walk through life without realizing that entire worlds exist underground, dark, abandoned, and full of secrets that were never meant to be uncovered. Tonight, we're going to take you into the depths of the earth, places where sunlight has never reached, where echoes of the past still whisper through endless tunnels, and where those who enter often don't return. This is not about haunted houses or spooky forests. No, these are three true terrifying stories that all happened underground that will descend first into a forgotten Soviet laboratory buried deep below ground, where something unnatural might still be waiting. Then we'll crawl through a labyrinth of sewer tunnels, where the stench of decay hides something far worse than rats. And finally, we'll plunge into a bottomless cave, a natural abyss that has swallowed explorers and left behind only chilling legends. If you think you're safe in your home, just remember, beneath your feet, there could be miles of tunnels, chambers, and caverns you know nothing about. And in the dark, silence isn't always empty. It's often watching you. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and don't look away. Because once you hear these stories, you'll never think of the underground the same way again. Story 1. The Forgotten Soviet Lab asterisk. There are places hidden from the world, built not to be discovered, not even remembered. Places where silence holds secrets so dark that even decades cannot bury them. This story begins in the mid-1980s, during the final years of the Soviet Union. Beneath an ordinary industrial town in Eastern Europe, a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers was carved into the earth. Officially, the facility didn't exist. Unofficially, it was known among insiders as Object 21, a subterranean laboratory designed for experiments that were never meant to see daylight. Locals whispered rumors about it. Some said it was a fallout shelter, others a weapons depot. But workers who were contracted to deliver supplies noticed strange things: large quantities of sedatives, medical restraints, and even recording equipment being carried underground. The truth was never spoken aloud. Fear was stronger than curiosity. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, many of these secret programs were abandoned. Object 21 was no exception. The entrances were sealed with reinforced concrete, and all files were classified. With time, the memory of the place faded, surviving only as fragments of gossip passed between old men in bars. But some places refused to stay forgotten. The discovery in 2014. A group of urban explorers, diggers, as they called themselves, stumbled upon a rumor online. Someone had found a strange air vent deep in the forest outside that same town. It was old, rusted, and partially collapsed. But what caught their attention was the faint draft of cold air seeping out. Convinced this could lead to something bigger, they decided to investigate. There were 5 of them, 2 experienced explorers, a cameraman, a newcomer, and the leader, who had been researching Soviet bunkers for years. They brought climbing gear, headlamps, and cameras. At first, it seemed like just another abandoned structure. The vent led to a narrow shaft, which descended several meters before opening into a concrete passage. Dust and stale air hung heavy, as if the place hadn't been touched for decades on the walls. Faded Cyrillic signs still marked directions. Block A, laboratories. Block B, quarantine. Block C, archives. The diggers couldn't believe their luck. They had uncovered something extraordinary at first. The group laughed, treating it like an adventure. But as they moved deeper, their laughter grew less frequent. The signs of something wrong, the corridors stretched endlessly, coated with peeling paint and streaks of black mold. Here and there, strange stains marked the walls, impossible to tell whether it was rust or something else. In one room, they found dozens of metal chairs bolted to the floor, each equipped with leather restraints. Chains dangled from the walls, and the ceiling was fitted with old speakers. A logbook lay open on a desk, its pages covered in neat handwriting. The last entry dated back to 1989. It mentioned Subject 14, increased agitation during prolonged isolation. Screams lasted 43 hours before termination of test. The explorers exchanged uneasy glances. One of them nervously joked that maybe it was all staged, some Cold War theater. But the silence in the room swallowed his words. In another chamber, they discovered cages. Inside were fragments of bone. Animal, they told themselves. It must be animal. But deep down, none of them believed it. The further they went, the colder it became. Their breath turned visible, though the outside temperature was mild. The deeper levels of Object 21 seemed to exist in their own climate, as if the Earth itself was draining warmth. The first incident after nearly 2 hours underground, their cameras caught something strange. While panning across a corridor, one frame revealed a dark figure at the far end. When they replayed it, the figure was gone. They insisted it was dust or a trick of the light. But when they checked again, the silhouette appeared once more, closer than before. The cameraman swore he saw movement. A shadow slipping across the wall with no one there to cast it. They decided to turn back, but the leader insisted on pressing forward, just to see the archive section before leaving. Reluctantly, the group followed. That's when they heard it. The metallic clang echoed through the hallways, as though a door had slammed shut. Then came the sound of dragging footsteps, slow and deliberate, not echoing from one direction, but surrounding them, bouncing from every wall. Panic spread. The newcomer began to cry, demanding to leave immediately. But the passages twisted and forked, and somehow the way back seemed longer, unfamiliar. It was as if the tunnels had shifted. The archives at last. They stumbled into the archive block. Dust-covered shelves stretched from floor to ceiling, stacked with folders and film reels. Papers lay scattered across the floor. Yellowed and brittle .1 document, half-burned, described sensory deprivation protocols. Subjects kept in darkness for months, tested for telepathic abilities. Another spoke of Project Echo, an experiment to create entities from collective human fear, and then they found photographs. Dozens of them. Each picture showed individuals strapped into chairs, blindfolded, with mouths sewn shut. Some looked fresh, others blurred, as though the film itself had warped. While flipping through the photos, one of the explorers froze. His flashlight beam trembled as he whispered, This one wasn't taken decades ago." The picture showed 5 figures. They were standing in the very corridor they had just walked through. Their faces were obscured, but their clothing was unmistakable: modern jackets, backpacks, and headlamps. It was them. The descent into panic, the group bolted, abandoning the archives. Their footsteps thundered against the concrete, But no matter which way they turned, the corridors seemed endless. Every intersection looked the same, every door locked or bricked shut. The cameraman, still recording, caught something horrifying in the beam of his light. Claw marks etched into the walls. Some were shallow, others deep enough to expose rebar. At one spot, the gouges formed words in Russian, "IT lives." Suddenly, the leader screamed. When the others spun around, he was gone, vanished into the shadows just behind them. His headlamp lay flickering on the floor. From that direction came a sound no human throat could produce, a deep, guttural growl mixed with a whisper. Words half formed, as if multiple voices spoke at once. The group broke into a sprint, desperate to find the shaft they had entered from. The cameraman lagged behind, still trying to capture proof. His final recording showed a shadow stretching unnaturally along the wall, reaching toward him like a living thing. The footage ended in static that aftermath only two explorers emerged from Object 21 that night. They were found days later, wandering aimlessly in the forest, dehydrated and incoherent. They spoke of voices in the dark and a door that shouldn't exist. Both were institutionalized within months. The footage was confiscated, but fragments leaked online. A shaky video of endless corridors, a fleeting silhouette, and a scream cut short out of the group. Three were never seen again. The leader, the cameraman, and the newcomer simply vanished, their bodies never recovered. In the laboratory, the authorities sealed the entrance once more. But locals still whisper that on quiet nights, near the rusted air vents in the forest, you can hear faint cries echoing up from the earth, as if Object 21 is still alive, waiting. Story 2. The sewer horror cities are built to hide what they don't want you to see. Beneath the streets, beneath the lights and the noise, there is another world, dark, endless, and forgotten. A place of tunnels where the smell of rot lingers, where water never stops dripping, and where something far worse than rats waits in the shadows. This story begins in the mid-1990s, when children began to disappear in one Eastern European city. At first, it was chalked up to crime, runaways, the chaos of a collapsing system. But there was a pattern. The last sightings were always near the old storm drains, the ones leading into a disused section of the sewer system. Parents whispered about it, but the police dismissed it as coincidence that by 2003, whispers had turned into rumors too loud to ignore. A team of municipal workers was sent to inspect the old sewers, searching for collapses or blockages. Two men descended with flashlights and radios. Neither came back. The last transmission, according to records later leaked online, the workers reported strange symbols carved into the concrete walls. Not graffiti, but deliberate etchings, circles, jagged lines, runes no one could identify. Then came their final message, captured over the radio. Wait, what is that? Do you see it? It's moving. It's moving. There was a scream, a crash, and then static. The official report said the men were killed in a structural collapse. But people who knew the sewers insisted there had been no collapse. The tunnels were intact. The diggers, the city's underground culture of urban explorers, known as diggers, took notice. Some went into the sewers out of curiosity, others for the thrill. Many came back shaken, swearing never to return. They spoke of a stench so strong it burned the throat, of piles of bones arranged deliberately in alcoves, and of whispers echoing through the tunnels even when no one was there. One digger described seeing eyes, dozens of them, glowing faintly in the dark. Another claimed he was followed by a shadow larger than any human, its movements jerky, unnatural, as if it didn't belong to flesh and bone. Most people dismissed these as stories told to scare newcomers. Until 2017, the bloggers that year, three young bloggers decided to live stream their exploration of the sewer labyrinth. They wanted views, subscribers, attention. Equipped with GoPros, flashlights, and smartphones, they entered through a storm drain on the edge of the city. The stream started lighthearted. They joked about mutant rats, about finding Pennywise. But as the signal dropped deeper underground, their laughter faded. The tunnels stretched farther than they expected, branching endlessly. At first, viewers noticed something strange in the background, a figure just at the edge of the flashlight beams. When the chat spammed, "Look behind you," the bloggers laughed it off. But the figure appeared again and again, always closer. At one point, the stream picked up an audio anomaly, a whisper layered over their voices, speaking in a language no one could identify. It repeated a phrase again and again until the microphone distorted. The bloggers eventually reached a large chamber where the sewer widened into a circular hall. In the center was a mound of debris, metal, wood, bones. Human bones. One of them gagged, pointing the camera at a skull gnawed clean. The chat exploded, demanding they leave immediately. But before they could, one of the flashlights flickered and died. The camera caught only fragments, water splashing, a scream, and something massive moving in the darkness. "Run!" one of them shouted. The feed jolted as the camera whipped around, catching a glimpse of an enormous silhouette. It wasn't fully visible, only a distorted shape, hunched, with arms too long and movements too quick for something its size. Its eyes reflected the light, not like an animal's, but like glass. The live stream cut off. Aftermath, the bloggers never uploaded again. Their channel went silent. Their equipment was never recovered. The city quietly cordoned off the storm drains, claiming it was for maintenance. But those who know the sewers say the labyrinth is still there, waiting. Some claim the creature is real, born from decades of chemical runoff and mutations in the depths. Others believe it's something older, something that has always lived beneath the city, feeding on whatever strays too far into its territory. But every now and then, late at night, maintenance crews swear they hear it. The sound of footsteps splashing in shallow water, always just out of sight, sometimes followed by whispers echoing through the pipes, carried up into the streets above. And the most chilling part? The whispers aren't random. They call people by name. Story 3. The Black. Well, there are places on Earth that feel wrong from the very first step. Places where silence presses against your skin, where the air itself seems heavier, as if it doesn't want you there. In the Carpathian Mountains, hidden among dense forests and steep cliffs, there is such a place. The locals call it Chorny Kalogich, the Black Well. According to legend, the well is not just a cave. It is a wound in the earth, a passage into something older than time. For centuries, villagers avoided it. They spoke of voices that lured shepherds inside, of hunters who vanished without a trace, and of shadows that moved in the depths even when no light reached them. Few outsiders believed the stories, until explorers tried to prove them wrong. The first attempts in the 1970s, a group of mountaineers decided to explore the cave. They brought ropes, lamps, and recording equipment. They descended one by one, lowering themselves into the shaft that dropped straight down like a vertical tunnel. At first, everything seemed normal: limestone walls, dripping water, the faint sound of bats. But halfway down, something changed. The radios began to pick up interference. Though there was no reason underground signals should work at all, voices crackled through the static. Not the climbers' voices, but others. Calm, steady, speaking in a language none of them understood. Point one climber panicked, begging to be pulled back up. His rope went taut, then slack. When they pulled, all they recovered was the harness. The man himself had vanished. The rest of the team retreated, swearing never to return. Only fragments of their recordings survived, filled with strange whispers and sudden bursts of laughter that didn't belong to anyone present. The 2009 expedition, for decades, the cave remained untouched. Then, in 2009, a group of speleologists from a university decided to officially document it. They wanted to map its depth, prove the legends false, and maybe earn some recognition. There were four of them, three experienced cavers and one student. They carried professional gear, cameras, audio recorders, and satellite trackers. At first, the descent went smoothly. They reached 100 meters, then 200. The shaft seemed endless, the walls narrowing and widening unpredictably. Around 300 meters, they began to hear it, not with their ears, but in their minds. Whispers, soft, insistent, slipping into their thoughts like water through cracks. The student claimed he heard his mother calling him by name. Another heard a voice begging for help. The third swore he heard children laughing. Their recordings confirmed it. On playback, the whispers were real, layered, overlapping, speaking in dozens of voices at once. Still, they pressed on. The encounter at 400 meters, their lights caught something impossible. The walls of the shaft bore carvings, not natural erosion, but deliberate marks. Spirals, figures, symbols that predated any known culture in the region. Some depicted human-like shapes with hollow eyes, arms outstretched, as if falling into the abyss. Then, in the beam of the student's camera, something moved. Not a shadow, not a trick of light, but a figure clinging to the wall. Pale, featureless, humanoid. It stared at them with empty sockets, then slipped silently into the rock as if it had never been there. The group panicked. One tried to climb back up, fumbling with the rope. But the rope was wet. Not with water, something thicker, sticky, like blood. And from below came the sound of breathing. Heavy, slow, rising up the shaft. The end of the descent, the final minutes of their footage are chaotic. The camera shakes, lights flicker, and voices scream. But in between, there are frames that should not exist. Frames showing more figures, dozens of them, crawling along the walls, their movements jerky, insect dash like the at point. The student turns the camera on himself. His eyes are wide, tears running down his face. He whispers, "It's not a cave. It's alive. The feed cuts there. Aftermath search teams found almost nothing. The ropes ended abruptly, torn as if sliced clean. Scattered equipment was discovered near the entrance, but no bodies were ever recovered. Locals said they weren't surprised. The black well doesn't take bodies, one old man explained. It takes people. It keeps them. Today, the cave remains sealed with concrete slabs and warning signs. But hikers still claim they hear sounds when passing nearby, voices echoing faintly through the earth, calling their names. Some even say, if you stand close enough at night, the wind from the shaft doesn't blow upward. It pulls downward, as though the earth itself is breathing in. And once you hear the call of the black well, it never really lets you go. Asterisk, now that you've seen what lurks beneath our feet, it's impossible to think of the world the same way. Dark tunnels, forgotten chambers, endless pits. Places where the past refuses to stay buried and the shadows are alive. These stories are real, or at least parts of them are. And the thing about the underground? It never forgets. It waits, watching, listening, always ready for the next curious soul that if these tales sent a shiver down your spine. Imagine what else is hidden just out of sight, beneath cities, forests, and mountains around the world. So, before you go about your day, remember, the underground doesn't care about your fear, but it does care who listens. If you want more terrifying true stories, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us which story chilled you the most, and maybe, just maybe, we'll take you deeper into the darkness next time, because some doors, once opened, never close.